Today, we are going to be reading from the Gospel of Mark, chapter 4, verses 35 through 41, and I will be reading from the Common English Bible. Later that day, when evening came, Jesus said to them, "Let's cross over to the other side of the lake." They left the crowd and took him in the boat just as he was. Other boats followed along. Gale-force winds arose, and waves crashed against the boat, so that the boat was swamped. But Jesus was in the rear of the boat, sleeping on a pillow. They woke him up and said, "Teacher, don't you care that we're drowning?" He got up and gave orders to the wind, and he said to the lake, "Silence, be still." The wind settled down, and there was a great calm. And Jesus asked them, "Why are you frightened? Don't you have faith yet?" Overcome with awe, they said to each other, "Who then is this? Even the wind and the sea obey him." Here ends the reading. Spirit of God, stir up your people. Thanks be to God. I made a joke that they let me back up here again on the last service. They keep doing it, and I'm going to keep on coming up here. So I like to read out of this Common English Bible because this is what our students read out of. So to me, it's got a really special place. And if you've ever had to preach to teenagers, you know that they're like herding cats. You guys know exactly what I'm talking about. So, like anything that I always do, I've got a little bit of a story to tell you, because that's what I do. Many moons ago, I worked as a marine engineer for a popular casino boat around here, and my job was a marine engineer. Work on the engines, the diesel engines, to work on the hydraulics, the pneumatics, and electronics, anything like that on a vessel that would go bad. But I also had this lousy job. I had a lousy job that every single day I had to, first of all, I was a mechanic, so I had to change clothes, put on this black dress Class B outfit with gold epaulets on, and go walk on the boat and check all the light bulbs on a casino to make sure that the cameras could see people trying to cheat while they're gambling. But I also had this pretty cool job as well, besides my daily light bulb check. Since I fell underneath Coast Guard regulations and maritime law, I was the only person allowed to operate the cargo elevator. Well, in a casino, you have a lot of celebrities that come and go, and the cargo elevator is absolutely the best way that celebrities can come and visit and go from point A to point B without getting recognized by fans, the crowd, and they just kind of hide out. So here's my moment. I came into work, and my boss, the captain, told me that I was going to meet Kevin Bacon, and I was going to escort him to a certain area of the boat. Kevin Bacon, that's right. Kevin Bacon from Footloose, Stir of Echoes, Tremors, and he's also in a band called the Bacon Brothers with his brother Michael. So, here I was, super nervous walking to this cargo elevator, and the whole time I kept telling myself, "Shane, don't say anything dumb. Don't do anything stupid. Be calm, be cool, be collected. Don't say anything dumb." So there I was on this cargo elevator, and I feel it slow down and stop, and the doors swoosh open, and there he is, Kevin Bacon. He walks onto the elevator by himself, and the door closes, and that's right, it's just me and Kevin Bacon, all by ourselves. Yeah, I like to think on the outside I was really calm and cool and collected, but on the inside I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is Kevin Bacon." And he's not a big guy. He's like this big. So I was kind of shocked, but here's the best part. I don't know where this came from, but this is the moment that I say was the most profound thing I've ever said in my life. I pulled this from the depths of everything that I am. I looked right at him. I stared Kevin Bacon right in the eye, and I said, "You know who you are?" Yep, I did it. I said something stupid. And I quickly apologized, and he just kind of laughed it off, and boy, I'll never get that one back in my life. But the reason why I share this is because the presence of greatness has a strange effect on us. It's like a curious mixture of joy and fear. If being in the presence of a human greatness makes us feel like we don't know it has an effect on us. We don't know if we need to draw close or run away. If being in the presence of human greatness is like that, imagine this. Imagine being in the presence of infinite greatness. If being starstruck by Kevin Bacon, who's a dancer, a singer, and a musician, what's it like if you find yourself in the presence of somebody who brought the universe into existence with just a word? In verse 35, it says, "Later that day, when evening came, Jesus said to them, 'Let's cross over to the other side of the lake.' They left the crowd, and they took him in the boat just as he was, and other boats followed along." Just as he was. See, remember, Jesus was teaching parables of the soil right before this to such a large crowd that he was sitting on the boat and they were surrounding on the shore. Is what Mark is referring to Jesus saying, let's go just as he was, or because he was already in the boat, or as he was, like immediately. Let's just go as I am, take me as I am. Everything that I have, I'm good to go. Let's just leave. I like to think that it's a little bit of both. And then there were the boats that followed along. Did you get that? It just says there were boats that followed along. There's no detail. There's no other information. It's just this segment that says, and the other boats followed along. It reads like a memory. It reads like somebody's talking about an instance. Like, oh yeah, and there were other boats that just followed along, like a true account. Gale force winds arose, and the waves crashed against the boat, and the boat was swamped. But Jesus was asleep in the rear of the boat, sleeping on a pillow. They woke him and said, "Teacher, don't you care that we are drowning?" And this must have been a horrible storm, because these are experienced fishermen. And I'm sure they've been in a lot of storms. And I want to remind you that during the storm, it says that they left at the end of the day. It was evening. They were on the Sea of Galilee at night. But the Sea of Galilee sits 700 feet below sea level. And it's surrounded by this large mountain range. So you get this mixture of these cold mountain winds that rush down and these warm winds that are on the seabed. When they mix, they create terrible, terrible storms. And here in the Midwest, we know what happens when you get the warm air and the cold air. We get tornadoes. But Jesus was sleeping. After a long day of ministry, he was exhausted. Let's be honest, the mortal body can't do what a spiritual body can do. And his body was tired. He was on a pillow. Being on a pillow shows that he planned on sleeping. But why is Jesus planning on sleeping knowing that he's going into a storm? Look, if Jesus can control the weather, surely he can predict it, right? So when his disciples wake him and they ask, "Don't you care that we're perishing? Don't you care that we're drowning?" You ever feel like that? You ever feel like, Jesus, we're about to die, I'm being overwhelmed, I'm being crushed. Do you even care? Because at that time, it's okay to wake up Jesus. It's okay to pray for Jesus. He woke up and he gave the orders to the wind, and he said to the lake, "Be still," and the wind settled down, and immediately the water calmed. If you've ever been on the water during a windstorm, you're going to know right away that that water does not calm down right away. It's going to continue for hours. He then turned to his disciples and he said, "Why are you frightened? Don't you have faith yet?" Then they were overcome with awe, great fear. And they said to each other, "Who then is that even the wind and the sea obey him? Who is he?" When they were in the storm, they thought that they were going to die, and they had just that regular type of fear, that regular fear that I don't want to die. But when they saw Jesus rescue them from the storm by overtaking it, it terrified them even more. See, Jewish believe that nobody can control the weather but God. So who is this man that just spoke to the elements and commanded them to stop? Elements that are devoid of feelings, emotions. To show that force was absolutely terrifying. See, Jesus actually caused the storm, didn't he? He stilled the natural storm on the lake, but he caused a spiritual storm inside the hearts and the minds of the disciples. He calmed the sea and he stirred them up, and he made them ask, "Who is this that even the wind and the waves obey him?" As stated in verse 36, it says, they brought him just as he was. Because they did, didn't they? But you know what? They were soon to discover who Jesus truly is. The actions of Jesus in the storm are acts of Jesus in our lives. And a lot of you right now may be going through a storm, or you're in the middle of a storm right now. And if you're a follower of Jesus and you're in the middle of that storm, my question to you is why? Why are you so afraid? Have you forgotten that you are in the presence of Jesus in the midst of that storm? You're not alone. It doesn't mean that it's not going to be hard, and it doesn't mean that it's not going to be tough. It does mean that you are not alone in it. Your hope is not the boat. Your hope is the one who's in the boat with you. See, my soul is anchored to the Lord because he is in my boat. He's in my house, and he's with me. And if you're going through some struggles and trials, know that he is with you and that he is stronger than the storms that you fear. Thank you.